Alright guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the best combos you can get for the Foundation Specialist gloves. Before I go into it, I pulled a knife recently and it looks pretty damn sick, but I've previously cooked an entire loadout myself and used it for months with the Foundation gloves, so I know what I'm talking about here, so let's get into these banging combos. Okay, so what you're going to want to do with your Foundation gloves for the knife combo is get a black laminate. I want to cover the cost of the gloves first of all, because I've gone for them in minimal wear, which will cost you about $1,300. However, you can save almost $500 by going for field test as you drop down to $820. Low float field tests that hold up pretty well, but I like showcasing with minimal wear gloves, especially when they are affordable in this case. Now, the reason I want you to go for a black laminate is because Tiger Tooth flat out cannot pair here, and any other knife that offers a bit of orange, the orange just sort of clashes with the gloves. They're a bit awkward for that reason, but when I found out that black laminates like this work perfectly with them, I was a big fan. The knife is just over $1,000. Of course, this is the M9 version. If you want to save money, you can go all the way down to the Huntsman, a boy, knives like that. And while we're on it, the agent is going to be Lieutenant Commander Ricksaw because I don't want any sleeves, and this is the cheapest option. Now, something people like to do with the Foundations and also the Queen Jaguars is pair it with low fade percentage knives. So this is a cookery fade, anywhere between 80 to 83%. You're going to get something in this sort of realm. The reason people like it is because that bottom silvery bit kind of pairs in nicely with the whitey grey off-whites off the gloves. It offers something a bit different. Obviously, black laminate is the better pairing, but if you want an alternative, this was an option. And then finally, again, going for that sort of off-white, silvery combination, you could go for a Damascus steel. In this case, the Nomad knife is pretty affordable at $340, but it's clear to see that the black laminate is just a clear winner. And then when we get to the weapon skins, we'll kick it off with the USP on the CT side. As always, the Orion for $70 is going to be my shout. This is the only orange USP in the game that is anywhere decent. It might also be the only one in the game in general. I'll try to save myself a little bit there. But yeah, it is the best pairing. I do have an alternative shout, which is what I actually used at the time, which is the Cayman. But this isn't for everyone. It's also more expensive at $83. But that reddish orange, with it just being an older, unique skin, personally, I liked vibing out with this, but it's kind of up to you. I'm going to waffle a lot more about Asiimovs as we go through this, so I'll just cover the price tonight. This field test of PD50 Asiimov is $3.25, and you can see how nicely it pairs together. And as I said, I ran a Foundations gloves based loadout myself, so a lot of these pairings are what I was using, like the Fennec Fox. I think you want to get a souvenir version just to save some money, but with no stickers, a souvenir version would look like this in minimal wear. The skin itself has tones of red and orange, and because it's such a mix, you can kind of then get away with it with these gloves. So this is a S tier Desert Eagle that you can get in and look fantastic. Right, the Joe Berettas, I'm going to say there's like basically one option. You're going to want to go for the Demolition. They are $14.60. Seems a bit wild to me to spend this much for a pair of Joe Berettas, but when the pairing is perfect and we're looking at the best combos, you kind of got to do it. And speaking of crazy pistol prices, the 5.7 is going to cost you $74 for the Nitro. Now, I don't think you should be spending $74 for a 5.7, but when the pairing is as close to perfect as this is, I couldn't really get around not suggesting it. An alternative maybe would be like an Angry Mob's, got a little bit of orange but other mixed colors and is fairly affordable. Don't worry though, you can claw back some budget when you get to the MP9 because the Modest Threat will only sting you for 15 cents in minimal wear. When I had this combination, I did run a Rose Iron MP9 with a Fanatic Cattle 15 hollow on the front. That's an option you could look at. Or the other clean alternative I have is the Arctic Tritone. Obviously got orange accents, it's got the white, and then it's got the greyish black camel pattern. Overall, with the gloves being white and having a bit of orange, I think this plays in nicely. Pretty easy MP7 suggestion. You can see immediately that the oranges here are playing so nicely together. It's also in factory new for only 32 cents. I went for a bit of a risky play on the UMP. I mean, if you can call it risky, it's a late night trans. It's $1.40 minimal wear. Obviously, it has mixed colors, but obviously the black laminate worked with that black base. So I was thinking, you know, a black base skin that has a clear orange accent on it, which is very similar to the orange of the gloves, but also some multi-colors, doesn't break the bank. I quite like this with the gloves, but you guys can let me know your thoughts of it in the comments. And then I've cooked a little bit because for the XM I was struggling, then I realized the Technically Burner changes color considerably when you go to Battle Scarred. So for 90 cent Battle Scarred, that's going to be my suggestion because the oranges get pretty damn close. Maybe you want to play around with the high field test to see how that looks, but I wanted to give you the Battle Scarred pricing just for consistency. And I once again find myself suggesting the Foresight simply because there's nothing else that I really like that I think pairs well. So, you know, 8 cent just does the job. Now, the meat and potatoes of the CT side, we're going to go to the rifles. And for the M4A1S, I actually have 3 options, but the one that I'm pricing for is the Atomic Alloy. This is $120 factory new. It does wear kind of badly because it's an older skin. It's just kind of how it is. But the oranges are pretty damn close here. That this just is crying out for an older craft on it. Maybe you can spend a little bit of sticker pay, get a craft on it yourself. But I think overall this holds up pretty damn nicely. It's worth mentioning that the Emperor NS Nitro does exist for the budget option, but and that would be a true budget option. But I'm going to say player 2 is also an option. Because when you use the Emperor NS in idle, all you see is like the grey patches, a little bit of whitish grey, and then one tiny strip of orange, which means that orange pairing's there, but you're free to go with slightly other skins if you want to color-wise, and that's where the blue and orange being complementary colors, I think comes together quite nicely for 51 bucks. And just to showcase what I used with it at the time, it was a Battle Scarred Welcome to the Jungle. Now, for $620 and not being a true orange skin, probably not your cup of tea, but we do have this orangey snake on it, and it's not the right shading of orange, but as I'm saying, I think you get a bit of leeway with the nature of the gloves in idle, so if you want like a crazy S tier skin, this is what you should go for. But now I can go for the Asiimov Waffling. Here we have the Emperor A4, which in field test it will now sting you $185. The price just continues to rise and rise. Why am I suggesting Asiimovs here? The foundation colors are actually based off the color palette of the Asiimov, which means you get perfect pairings with the Asiimov skin. So that means for your M4 and every other option you have possible for an Asiimov, spoiler alert, you should be using it. Like the Op, for example. Yes, it's going to cost you $138, but you do get one of the most iconic Op skins in the game. That is a perfect pairing for your gloves. And now something that is not a Asiimov skin, we're going to have the famous 2A2F. This is from the recently added Train collection, and honestly, it is made to pair with these gloves, because you have that one orange strip coming through, which you obviously see in the gloves. You've got that little bit of white, which you see in the gloves, and then it's just sort of like neutral colors outside of that. It's $1.55, banging combination here for a low price. And I'm going to end it off for the AUG on CT side. We're going to go for a 14-cent Chukaya. We don't want to spend big on the AUG, not many people use it, but this, at least, orange-wise, is holding up pretty well. Okay, I'm not shilling for my own agent again, but I do think going for Sir Bloody Silent Darrell is the best play here. You get the tattoos and you get the silver axes, and with it being the sort of greyish white and orange, I don't think you want bronze, I don't think you want gold, so the only silver accent agent in the game is going to be your best bet. And then kind of keeping up a similar vibe when I go to the Glock, I'm actually going to go for the Dragon Tattoo for $109 in factory new. There is a world where you can go and get a good pattern grinder and do an orange craft on it. I did that myself. Now, I can't remember the exact pattern of my Glock grinder, but this is a pattern 731. It gets rid of the white. You get a little bit of orange coming through. And if you go for like VP stickers, also another one, the VP stickers pair absolutely perfectly with the foundation gloves. I'll show that more in a second. It pains me to be using a safety net because I don't love it as a skin, but it's kind of hard to argue against for the Tech 9. It's also just under $2, so one of the cheaper options in the loadout. Then, my personal pick here would be going for a Mac 10 Last Dive. It's a pattern-based skin, but this one you can find on the market for $3.79, factory new, heavily orange color, which is what you want. It's a mix of orange and teal. If you go heavy orange, you can see it actually pairs quite nicely with the gloves. And just like a quick mention that I think the Mac 10 Allure can look pretty good with it. It's $1.60, it's like half the price, really because it's got these little bits of white and a bit of orange. Our P90 is going to bring us our second last Asiimov skin. This one I'm going field test, even though you can get it in better condition, just to try and balance like the value for money. This makes it $7.50, still more than I'd personally pay for a P90 skin. But you know what, to get the perfect pairing, you kind of have to. But I'd say don't fear, because for the PP Bison, we are going to go for the Runic, which is merely 8 cent. It's got this orangey text on, a little bit of burnt orange vibe as well. It's going to do the job for us nicely. Now, I have picked out 2 Gail skins. I'm going to price the cheaper one that I think is more likely for you to go for. It would be the Gail Control. Now, this obviously has this off-white palette color and a big orange strip through it, plus the orangey brown polymag, which just means it's going to work nicely. You do have to get it factory new, which is just under $3, otherwise it will scuff really badly. Now, at the time, this didn't exist, so I used another option, which was the orange D-pad. Now, this is a super old skin, which means minimum wear, you're going to be paying $25 plus. I can't really give a firm pricing on that because the marketplaces can change massively depending on the low supply that exists on these, but I think with a cheap craft on it, I did Apex Hollows from one of the events. I slipped my head now, I can't remember which one it was, but it looked pretty damn good, so yeah, enjoy. And with all the references of Asiimov so far, you probably guessed that this one was coming for the AK. Now, this is going to be our only one in a minimal wear, because I think it's worth going for. I had a stat track version, I did run it in Battle Scarred, the skin wears well, but in this case, let's go minimal wear, let's keep it clean. This combination, especially with the silver accents, it is screaming perfection. Now, I've mentioned VP stickers, and to really put it into context, this is a 8 cent craft because these stickers cost 2 cents each. and it's papers from Copenhagen. The orange is so close to be a 1-for-1 with the Asiimov itself. You have so many great craft options, but this is a super budget option if you want one. Now, while there's a couple of scout options, I personally think you should be using the slash, which only comes up to field test it, which is $1.80. Still a good price overall for a scout if you are a scout enjoyer. I wanted just to show a bit of love to the threat detector. It's factory new $34 plus. Wears awfully at the back. The orange isn't quite right, but it does have orange and white, and obviously the gloves have that, so I thought maybe some people would appreciate it. And as usual, we'll end it off on an SG, and I want to keep it nice and cheap and cheerful here, so the heavy metal for 25 cents is going to be my pick. Now, what does that mean for the lovely Foundations loadout that we've just built? Well, if you go for the M9 bayonet with the minimal wear gloves, you will be spending $3,453. But just to note, you can go for lower field test it. You can save yourself almost $500. So already you're getting under the $3,000 mark. And then, as I said at the start, you can change this M9 black laminate out for a Huntsman, a Bowie, a Fellowshin, anything lower tier. So you could then save a further $700 if you want to. So you could get this down to being almost a $2,300 loadout, which would be sick. But I think overall, if you had the budget, this is the best option. As I say, there were two other knife options. If you went for the Kukri Fade, which was obviously lower percentage fades, as I was saying, 80 to 83%, you'd come in at $2,947. So once again, if you got into field test the gloves, under $2,500 for the loadout. And then our cheapest option being a Damascus Steel Nomad knife would get you to $2,768, and you get to like $2,200-ish if you drop the gloves down to field test it. But there we go. It's a lovely sunny evening here. We've just cooked up a Foundations loadout, so I'm going to limit the waffling as much as I can. All I want to say here really is a big thank you to the YouTube members that continue to support the channel. It's greatly appreciated, and we'll keep cooking for you guys. And I want you guys, collectively, everyone here still watching, to let me know your favorite knife with the Foundation gloves in the comments down below. Was it a surprise I didn't use the Tiger Tooth, or were you already like aware and knew that it was going to be a black laminate? Let me know. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.